Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs of society. Welcome, rock dwellers. Welcome, all you hateful people who celebrate the president. You know, you're always welcome here at the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada, and that is Sharron Engel. Sharron, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's always a pleasure to be on this show and to get to talk to our guests. I always learn so much from them. And of course, it keeps me up on the news myself. You know, I have to kind of comb around for a few interesting tidbits before we go on the air. And I spent a little bit of time talking about my frustration with Republicans who aren't really Republicans, and I'm glad to see that I'm in good company. My poor president, he just can't get it to happen for him on his side of the aisle. No, it seems like it's just one thing or another. He's been ripping now Mr. Romney since the Utah Republicans sided with the U.S. intelligence community whistleblower who accusing Mr. Trump of abuse of power and spurred House Democrats' new impeachment efforts. So Romney, you know, he's just following in the footsteps of the late John McCain by asking for this impeachment. You know, it was my congressman who first said, oh, yeah, we should probably do that. At least have the investigation, right? My Republican congressman, the first Republican to come out for impeachment. And now here's Mitt Romney. And, you know, it's just interesting because Trump tweets back, he fights back, and his fight back was, the Democrats are lucky they don't have any Mitt Romney types. They may be lousy politicians with really bad policies on open borders and sanctuary cities, etc., but they stick together. And he's right about that. They
publicly
they don't go and stab each other in the back.
Well, somebody stabbed poor old Bernie Sanders in the back in 2016, that's for sure. You know, and Hillary Clinton's fingerprints were all over that knife. But, you know, the president tweeted out about Mitt Romney, and you're right about the president has not been able to catch a break. And you mentioned Romney, you mentioned McCain, but, you know, it's just not Romney, McCain. It's Jeff Flake. Remember Jeff Flake? Yeah. And also Joe Walsh. You know, that's the guy who really surprises me, Joe Walsh, because I really thought he was a true conservative, a true Tea Party, a patriot. And my idea of, and he was a guest on this show several times while he was in the Congress. And even after he was in the Congress, he does his own radio show. He was on, you know, he was on here as a guest. But, you know, you got to admire the president, Sharron. You really have to admire the president, how he's been under attack by not just Democrats and not just by liberals, but by Republicans in the deep state. And I had no idea. I had no understanding of how deep the swamp was and is, Sharron. I had no idea. But these swamp monsters, okay, like Mitt Romney and John McCain and Jeff Flake and Joe Walsh, and you know, can we add Paul Ryan to that mix? I mean, I think we can, and it's sad, isn't it, when you talk about who the swamp is, and you find out they are us. I mean, it's just crazy. You talked about Joe Walsh a little bit. I've been on Joe Walsh's show there in Chicago in person, and found him to be, as you said, a very conservative fighter. Yeah.
But something's happened. Something's happened since Trump was elected. And I'm not sure what has caused this to happen to Joe Walsh, but even my friends in Chicago say he's gone off the rails. He's just not the Joe Walsh they remember.
Or maybe he never was a Joe Walsh. We thought he was, Sharron. That's probably more it than anything.
That always is a concern, isn't it?
Right. Sharron, from the Tea Party movement back in 2009, so many people come out of the woodwork and, now we're conservatives. I've seen it, Sharron. I've seen it with radio talk show hosts. I've seen it with politicians. Mia Love was another one. She was the Tea Party darling, And Republicans have this thing. They really have this thing about women. They have it about young people, and they have it about minorities. They're so excited. They're so excited when somebody in one of those groups speaks conservative, all right? But, a lot of these are Johnny-come-lately, Sharron. I know of so-called conservative talk show hosts who voted for Barack Obama twice. So maybe Joe Walsh just happened to be another one of these guys. He ambitious man, wanted to climb to the top. Saw the conservative Tea Party rally as there for him to climb on, but he wasn't really a conservative after all. It's the only thing I can think about.
Well, there are a lot of opportunists in this political field, and that's really where the corruption is. I think, though, that the president really nailed it when he said, "I'm hearing that the great people of Utah are considering their vote for their pompous senator, Mitt Romney, to be a big mistake." I agree. He's a fool who is playing right into the hands of the do-nothing Democrats. Hashtag impeach Romney. Take that.
The other thing, Sharron, I voted for that guy. I did. I voted for that guy. In my opinion, he's a hell of a lot better than Barack Obama, okay? But I voted for that guy. And now it makes me feel dirty that I voted for him. It really does, Sharron.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs when our party can't nominate anything but the lesser of two evils. And often that happens with the Republicans. They settle for someone that looks just like the Democrat. And of course they lose because the Democrats are going to vote for Democrat light. They're going to go for their guy. And the Republicans don't have a choice. And so many times they'll just stay home from the polls and not vote because they just can't hold their nose. They know too much about this kind of a Republican. And that was the case for me. When Mitt Romney ran, I knew, I'd met the guy in person on several occasions, and he's not genuine, Rick. It's
very
sad.
Interesting.
It's sad.
When you say it's not genuine, could you give us an example with that? Oh, she's smiling. She knows something, but she doesn't want to tell us. When they start to equivocate and there's no reason to, that's when my spidey sensors go up because I'm in a conversation with him. It's a private room. There's nobody taping. He can be honest and off the cuff. Nobody that you know of.
Nobody, no. And really, it was there was no need for him to hedge, but he did. He hedged on taxes. He hedged on borders. The guy could not take a stand on anything that it's just basic conservatism. Even the Constitution, he was having a hard time with it. And that's those are the hallmarks. When you start talking, that's Tea Party talk, really. And we Tea Partiers, we always start with the Constitution. So how do you feel about the Constitution, right? And then we bring out our favorite, the Second Amendment. And I know you're going to bring that out here just in a few short minutes. So, but we always start there, and then we start in with some of the things that that our Constitution does guarantee. And we don't even get to the hard topics with this guy before he's all over the place. So, yeah, that's what I mean by not genuine. When you're taking both sides of the argument, I don't need the other side. I know what they're arguing. I just want to know, are you on my side?
Sounds like another politician to me, Sharron Engel.
Yeah.
And talking about the Second Amendment, here it goes. You are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Drader. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back, and we'll tell you who our guests are and the topics for our conversations. Be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And once again, it's our honor and privilege that you stay with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Drader. For rebroadcast, check out our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. Like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And for rebroadcast, again, it's our website, CCRShow.com. We have our TV show there, our radio show there. Not only that, a lot of terrific articles and a lot of great information. And Sharron, the hallmark of our show is always our great guests. We got 3 more joining us today.
Yes, we do. Our first guest is going to give us the update, right? We always talk about minimum wage, and we have Ryan Young, who is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. His research focuses on regulatory reform, trade policy, antitrust regulation, and other issues. His writing has appeared in USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, Political, The Hill, Investors Business Daily, Forbes, Fortune, and dozens of other publications. And he has formerly hosted the CEI podcast and writes the popular This Week in Ridiculous Regulation series from the CEI staff blog. Ryan has written an article, New Study, Minimum Wages Have Tradeoffs, and very interesting article about those tradeoffs. We'll get him to expand upon that as our guest today. Our second guest is George Parry, who is a contributor to the American Spectator, the Federalist, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. George is a former federal and state prosecutor. He served as special attorney for the Organized Crime and Racketeering Section, U.S. Department of Justice, Unit Chief Investigations Division, Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, Special Organized Crime Prosecutor, Blair and Cambria Counties in Central Pennsylvania, and legal analyst for KYW-TV. George now has a private trial practice in Philadelphia, and he's come on to talk with us about an article he wrote, CrowdStrike and the Impeachment Frenzy. And the reason I went through all of his credentials is because he has something really volatile to reveal, I believe, and he is a credible source. He's an investigator, Absolutely. So he knows what he's talking about, and I'm excited to get him on the show and talk about not only what CrowdSpeak is, but really what's underlying, what is the real Russiagate issue. And our final guest is Robert Romano, longtime friend of the show. He's the Vice President of Public Policy at Americans for Limited Government. He grew up in a suburban Long Island township of Rocky Point, where he graduated from high school, and then he studied and got his Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science from Stony Brook University. He is going to talk to us now about an article he wrote. It was Ukraine. Listen to this. It was Ukraine that reopened the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018, over a year and a half ago, Rick, and sought U.S. mutual legal assistance to look at it, not the other way around. I am so eager to hear what these guys have to say, because it's hard to get to the bottom of all of these issues. I don't hear it in not the alphabet media, for sure, and I'm rarely hearing it on Fox, and I'm even having a difficult time finding it on the internet. It's just, it seems to be very undisclosed, if you will, the truth about these matters. But I'm glad that we have these guests who are willing to speak out and say what the truth really is about these issues that are confronting us as Americans.
And well, Sharron, talk about what you hear. All you hear about anymore from the alphabet networks is whistleblower, whistleblower, whistleblower. And supposedly, here you go, folks. Another whistleblower now has come out of the woodwork. Sharron, it reminds me of what those people on the left did to Judge Kavanaugh. Remember that? Oh, this woman came out, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. Well, Sharron, here we go again. Another whistleblower just happens to come forward.
That's right. And from the same source. That's what's kind of interesting. This Andrew Bacaj, lead attorney for the first anonymous whistleblower behind a complaint with the intelligence community inspector general, said his legal team now represents multiple whistleblowers related to President Trump's dealings with their aircraft.
To come to him. You know, he reminds me of that sleazy, creepy lawyer. What was his name? I forget. During the Kavanaugh thing. Oh, yeah. Right. Give me your tire. Give me your report. Give me your huddle message, Ernie. Hey, here I am, guys. If you want to lie, you want to come on here, you want to say you're a whistleblower, you know where to reach me. Can't
But
take it.
but here, this is different. This is different, he says. I can confirm that my firm and my team represent multiple whistleblowers in connection to the underlying August 12, 2019 disclosure to the intelligence community. And he tweets out that the second whistleblower has direct first-hand knowledge of the July 25th phone call between Mr. Trump and the Ukrainian President Zelensky, unlike the first whistleblower who filed the complaint based on second-hand information. So here we go again. But at least he's getting better. At least he realizes now, what kind of an attorney is this guy?
Yeah.
At least he realizes that hearsay is not admissible. And now he has to get a little better whistleblowers than just those guys that heard from a friend that heard from a friend.
Yeah, another Ford. What was her name? I forget her name now. Ford.
Yeah.
The Kavanaugh. Oh, she had first-hand information. You know,
and then she couldn't remember it.
And then she couldn't remember it. Nor anybody she said also saw or witnessed it. Well, they don't remember anything like this. They don't remember the party. They don't remember anything. Okay. I forget her name. I forget her name. I forget the name of her sleazy lawyer. You know, anyway. Another whistleblower. Hong Kong. Sharron, there's stuff happening in Hong Kong. It's really scary. I keep saying I remember Tiananmen Square, and I'm afraid that the same thing is going to happen all over again.
Well, it's now 4 months long, this protest. And now the protesters shouting, wearing a mask is not a crime. Tens of thousands of protesters marched in central Hong Kong on Sunday as a court rejected a second attempt to block a ban on masks aimed at quashing violence at pro-democracy rallies. The ban, which took effect Saturday, triggered chaos for a third straight day in the semi-autonomous Chinese territory. I thought that was an interesting way to say it. They are supposed to be a free nation, a democratic, sovereign entity that is respected by Red China, but of course they're not.
And if you believe the Chinese, okay, I got a bridge or two to sell you. If you ever think the Chinese would let them be a democracy, let them have their own autonomy, you know, Great Britain was an idiot for giving up Hong Kong so easy, but I guess they felt as though they had no choice other than go to war with China. I don't think they would have done that over Hong Kong, but
well, and here's the reason for the masks. You know, they want. I can see why they'd want to be anonymous. Of course, they're going to prison if they are identified. But but it says that the police fired tear gas in several areas as demonstrators lobbed bricks and gasoline bombs in confrontation. So the thing has escalated. You know, we're not condoning bricks and gasoline bombs, but neither can we say that, you know, you can't defend yourself against tear gas. And of course, there was a point-blank shot fired at a protester too. So it just gets more and more incredible as this goes on. Sadly, I don't know, you know, what the world can do but watch.
All right. Speaking about going on, Sharron, we've got to go on, and you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, our first guest is going to be Ryan Young. He is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. A lot of good work comes out of there. And Ryan has written a very interesting article about a new study that CEI has put out. Minimum wages have trade-offs. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back with our first guest.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And once again, we want to thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Don't forget to like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And with that, Sharron, our first guest is with us. And as you always do with all our guests, please make them feel welcome.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Ryan Young, who is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. His research focuses on regulatory reform, trade policy, antitrust regulation, and other issues. His writing has appeared in USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, Politico, The Hill, Investors Business Daily, Forbes, Fortune, and dozens of other publications. He's also a frequent guest on radio programs like Conservative Commandos Radio Show, and he also has formerly hosted the CEI podcast and writes the popular This Week in Ridiculous Regulations. Ryan, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. We have an article here that you wrote, a new study, minimum wages have trade-offs. We here at Conservative Commandos radio show are regularly talking about minimum wage, and I live in a right-to-work state, which means we kind of let employers go their own way in some ways. This minimum wage, though, has really sparked an interest across the United States. I thought we had that killed. What's going on?
There's a bill at the federal level called the Raise the Wage Act. It's passed the House, but the Senate's probably not going to act on it. That bill would increase the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. But of course, it's going to be reintroduced next Congress. And of course, at the state and local levels, already 29 states have enacted their own increases, most of them shy of $15, more in the $10 to $12 range. So this is going to be a live issue. And every year there are more voter initiatives, more state legislatures enacting their own increases. And of course, eventually the federal increase will happen, if not this year, then in 2021. So what I want to do is point out that this has trade-offs. It's not a free lunch. If you get higher wages, not only is unemployment going to go up, but you're going to see hour cuts. You're going to see fewer on-the-job perks, fewer employee discounts, less employer-provided health insurance. Employees make more than wages. They also make non-wage income, such as that. So one price that comes with higher wages is lower non-wage pay. So a lot of workers, even if they have more money on their paycheck that is being taxed, they're not necessarily being paid more.
Well, I like your summation, which is there's a trade-off here. Why is it that workers don't see this trade-off? All they see is money, money, money.
There are two reasons for it. One is that a lot of advocates of minimum wage increases either downplay the trade-offs or ignore them entirely, so people don't hear the full story. And on the other side of the debate, the people who do say, hey, this is going to cost jobs, a lot of times that's the only trade-off that they point to, and that doesn't even come close to capturing the full story. In fact, in a lot of places where minimum wage increases have come out, you've seen very few job losses or none at all. That's because firing somebody is a last resort option, and employers will go very far to avoid having to fire people. Mm-hmm. So what they do instead, trade-offs exist no matter what. They pursue all kinds of other trade-offs that are less severe. Maybe instead of firing someone, you'll have them on for 5 fewer hours a week. Maybe they won't get that paid vacation or the coffee breaks that they've become used to. Maybe an employee doesn't get an employee discount anymore. Those things that'll be different for every company and different for every worker, but the trade-offs will still exist to about the same degree. So the reason so many people favor minimum wages is mainly because they're not getting the full story. Trade-offs do exist, but they're much more complicated than simple job losses.
Well, and you point that out in your article. I thought it was interesting that you pointed out that one of those trade-offs is workplace flexibility. Now, I know that people like to have that flexible schedule so they can miss crowded traffic patterns, so they can get to appointments that they need to go to, so they work early, so they can get off early. Talk about how a minimum wage increase might affect that flex schedule.
Well, that's just another form of trade-off. Sometimes businesses depend on, say, having enough people at peak hours. When you have to pay a lot more for labor, you're going to concentrate your employees much more in those peak hours. So that's one way where an employer might let something slide, have suboptimal performance during off-peak hours at, say, $8 an hour, but not at $15 an hour. So employees lose a bit of flexibility that might affect their home life to the degree that they'd rather not work at all or look for a different job that they don't like as much rather than have the higher wages on their paycheck. It's a matter of really reducing workplace choice. And there's also been a major controversy that I'd like to get to at some point in this interview involving tipped workers, who are probably the most affected by any minimum wage increase.
Well, that was where I was going next, so let's carry on. Talk about those tip earners, because I was a tip earner one time, and I loved it. You know, I banked my check, and I was able to live on my tips. That's how good tip earners do.
Yeah, back in my college days, I worked at a restaurant, and I enjoyed having the fresh tips in my pocket every day.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, a lot of places allow tipped employees to have a lower than minimum wage on the theory that tips make up for it. And in a lot of places, there are also guarantees where if it's a slow day, no customers, no tips, the employer will make good, so you make the local minimum wage.
Mm.
About 2 years ago, Washington, D.C. Had a voter initiative covering just the city to do away with this tip credit. And all of a sudden, tipped employees got a higher minimum wage, but people stopped tipping. The Washington Post published an etiquette guide that they completely improvised because nobody knew what to do. Do we give fewer tips? Do we give no tips at all? Customers didn't know what to do. Restaurants didn't know what to do. And tipped employees got so upset, and they were so vocal in their disapproval about having this choice taken away from them, that 4 months after this voter initiative passed, the city council said mea culpa, and they repealed those provisions for taking away the tips credit. So if there's a federal bill to do the same thing, which has already passed the House, tipped workers across the country will be very upset, because there's a choice between a low wage and high tips or high wage and low tips. One isn't necessarily better than the other. It should be the worker's choice. The service industry is huge, and there's plenty of room to have more than one business model that employees can pick and choose from. There's no need for legislators to choose that for tipped workers across the whole country.
Well, and they do choose. If you are a tipped worker, you look for a place where you're going to get better tips, and you're willing to take a little bit of a pay decrease in order to get that good shift and that good tipping job. So I can see where their angst would come from. So when we talk about these trade-offs, you talk about rent seeking. Talk about those companies and how this will affect them.
Yeah, happy to. A lot of companies, regardless of what the local legal minimum wage is, will have very high starting wages inside their own company. Amazon has a $15 starting wage for all its employees. Costco is $12.50 or so. Walmart is somewhere between $11 and $12. This is wonderful. They are rewarding their employees for hard work, and that reduces turnover, reduces training costs. In a lot of cases, this is a good business decision. What's a little unseemly is when they turn around and advocate for higher minimum wages for their smaller competitors using government. So while a company like Walmart might be able to absorb higher labor costs, maybe the corner store down the road that competes with them can't. Advantage big guy. So this is, a lot of companies are finding that because minimum wages are so popular with so many people, it's an easy way for them to get their camel's nose under the tent and get an artificial competitive advantage that they do not deserve.
Wow. Well, I would have never considered that. So I'm so glad that you wrote this article. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. Now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. We've been talking with our guest, Ryan Young, who is with the Competitive Enterprise Institute, about an article he wrote, New Study, Minimum Wages Have Trade-Offs. I'm Sharron Engel. My co-host is Rick Trader, and we'll all be right back after this message.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1 and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Once again, we want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Engel. I want to give a shout out to folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, and now in Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., and the folks that are watching us on the AUN television network in Northern California. Our guest this segment is Ryan Young. He's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and we're discussing an article he wrote, a new study actually, how minimum wage has trade-offs. Ryan, thank you for holding through that break. We really do appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be here.
Well, Ryan, you know, you and Sharron talked about tips a lot during the first part of this interview, and I see a problem with tips or the lack of tips, and I'll tell you why, Ryan. There have been a couple of times in my travels I've been in cultures where tipping wasn't expected, like in Greece and in Jamaica. And you know what the service was? It was awful. The service was absolutely awful. And, you know, when you talk about tips and when you can talk about the money people make in their tips, let me just give you an example. My wife and I went out to dinner the other night, really nice restaurant. We were there maybe about 45 minutes at best, got a great meal, left a $12 tip for that young man. Now, we weren't the only table that waiter was waiting on at that time. And what I'm getting at, tips, by and large, in and of itself, I do believe is beneficial, not just to the person getting the tip, but also people who are tipping. What's your feelings about tips, Ryan Young? Do you like to do it?
I think it depends on the circumstance. And one thing I like about having a diverse marketplace is that you can have diverse choices. Sometimes you want to know in advance that what you see listed on the menu is what you're going to pay. If you go to McDonald's or KFC or something,
sure, that's
what you want. That's one of the reasons you go there. But if you go to a fancier restaurant where there are more variables in play, you're working off with a chef who actually custom makes each meal with a server whose aptitude for the job is much more important than it is at a fast food restaurant. Yeah, tipping can give them an incentive to give the customer a better experience. What I don't like is having that choice taken away from both customers and from employees by a uniform minimum wage policy. Different restaurants should be free to experiment with different policies, and customers should be able to reward or to punish those restaurants based on their business decisions.
I absolutely agree. And, you know, Ryan, one of the things that I was unable to find in your article, but I would like to bring up is I actually think these minimum wages are inflationary. And by raising the prices of everything, by and large, it hurts the lowest paid person among us. You know, if somebody's at a burger flipping job making minimum wage and then they jack up the minimum wage almost double, well, you know, that burger flipping place isn't going to eat that. They're going to add to the price of their hamburgers. So therefore, when somebody goes out to buy a hamburger who is making minimum wage, they're going to pay more for that hamburger, by and large, eating up what they just made on that minimum wage. Ryan Young, am I thinking too far outside the box?
No, you're right on. And again, the marketplace being diverse, different restaurants will react differently. McDonald's is installing automated kiosks, which in a lot of its restaurants, which eliminate labor costs. A fixed cost for a computer might be a few $1,000s, but you make up for that in savings very quickly. Of course, their smaller competitors can't do that, which is why McDonald's is okay with allowing these increases to happen. On the other hand, a survey of New York restaurants, most with full service or partial service sit-down, found that in addition to 3/4 of them cutting hours for their employees, also across the board, nearly all of them increased their menu prices, which they directly stated was a result of the minimum wage increase. If you apply that same model nationwide, especially in parts of the country where costs of living and thus wages are much lower than in Manhattan, and you're going to see a lot of restaurants having to raise their prices, and also a lot of diners who might not have a whole lot of disposable income being priced out of having a nice night out for the parents or something like that. That's a human cost that's being overlooked in this debate.
You know, Ryan, you might look at, well, who is actually gaining here with the minimum wage? I think a lot of times people will, in a knee-jerk reaction, say politicians, that they are doing nothing but buying votes, and I'll agree with that. But also, don't the unions benefit from this? Because in union contracts, isn't there a provision that their prevailing union wage is always a certain percentage above what the minimum wage is?
That's often the case, and it makes it much harder, in addition to giving the unions a built-in raise and for contracts that have that provision in them. It also makes it harder for non-union workers to compete against them, which, again, gives a competitive advantage that isn't necessarily deserved on the merits. Workers should be free to compete with each other, same as businesses should. I don't think these one-size-fits-all solutions are very good policy.
Yeah. You know, Ryan, when I was a kid, and I think you and I may have discussed this before in past interviews and talking about the minimum wage. When I was a kid, and I mean a kid, like 14, 15 years old, I worked with my brother and my uncle. They were plumbers. I was their helper. They gave me about $1 an hour to be their helper. You know, I was the guy that did the grunt work. I was the guy that did the dirty work. But, you know, Ryan, I learned so much from my brother and my uncle, skills that I even still use today. For instance, a couple of years ago, on a Sunday morning, our hot water heater sprung a leak. Well, I went down to Home Depot, bought a hot water heater, and within a couple hours was able to install it. Why? Because of the skills that I learned when I was a kid. Ryan, I think that these minimum wages are stopping a lot of kids today from learning these trades because, hey, I don't know if I would have been worth $15 an hour at that time. See what I'm getting at, Ryan?
Yeah, well, my very first job was working at a Kmart in the town I grew up in. I made 10 cents above minimum wage. I'm not going to say how low the wage was at that time, but let's just say I would neither have been given nor would I have deserved a wage much higher than that. But those skills I learned, showing up on time, learning how to do your job, being courteous to people, following orders from your superiors, respecting that chain of command, those are skills that are still helping me more than 2 decades on. And even even if I was denied a higher wage because of a low minimum wage, those skills still paid off. And later in life, when I did an unpaid internship in the think tank industry, well, the connections I made and the skills I learned are, again, paying dividends.
All right.
Had I had to been paid above the minimum wage for that, I would not enjoy the career that I have now. A lot of people can tell similar stories regardless of their line of work, whether it's medicine or law or any white-collar job. A lot of blue-collar jobs require apprenticeships like that. Those are all under threat due to minimum wage legislation.
Well, Ryan, I also think it gives people the false impression of what they're worth. For instance, I'm doing some work at my former mother's house. My mother passed on, and I'm doing some work in the basement, which involves, there is an area where I had to excavate some dirt to do some work there, and I had to bucket this dirt out of the basement. So a neighborhood boy come by and says, look, if you have any work for me, I'd be happy to do it. All right. Well, what he would have been doing is I would have been filling the buckets of dirt. He would have been lifting it out of the cellar about 8 feet. And I says, well, what do you want? He said, well, $15 an hour. I says, what makes you think you're worth $15 an hour? He says, that's not the minimum wage. I said to him, well, that's not what the job is worth to me. I'll do it myself and save that $15 an hour. So that young man lost money. But I'm not the only one, Ryan Young, who's also has a problem with paying people this minimum wage. Apparently, Bernie Sanders and AOC didn't like it, don't like it either, because they have been caught paying their people, some of their people, less than minimum wage. Ryan, I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander, don't you?
I think workers and employers should be free to negotiate their own agreements without Washington stepping in.
I totally agree. Ryan Young, CEI, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Ryan, please tell our audience how they could read your full study, follow your work, and also the work of the Competitive Enterprise Institute.
Sure. The Competitive Enterprise Institute's website is CEI.org. We've been talking about my paper, Minimum Wages Have Tradeoffs, which is right there on the website, CEI.org. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Ryan Young, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless. You are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be talking with George Parry. George Parry is a writer, a contributor for the American Spectator. He's written a very interesting article. I learned so much from our guest. He's written an article, CrowdStrike and the Impeachment Frenzy. I didn't even know who CrowdStrike was. Well, George Parry is going to tell us right after this break.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
And once again, we want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast of our shows, if you can't pick us up on a radio station or television station, check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Also, you can like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. You know, Sharron, I always learn so much from our guests. That's my treat for doing this show. And I learned a lot about this next issue through reading this article. And we have a new guest with us, Sharron. And as you do with all our guests, please make them feel welcome.
Well, it is a pleasure to welcome George Parry to the Conservative Commandos radio show. George Parry is a contributor to the American Spectator, the Federalist, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. George is a former federal and state prosecutor. He served as Special Attorney for Organized Crime and Racketeering Section, U.S. Department of Justice. Also Unit Chief Investigations Division, Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Special Organized Crime Prosecutor, Blair and Cambria Counties, Central Pennsylvania. Legal Analyst. And George now has a private trial practice in Philadelphia. George, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much.
We're really interested in an article you wrote for the American Spectator. It's entitled CrowdStrike and the Impeachment Frenzy. Well, first of all, tell us what CrowdStrike is.
Well, CrowdStrike is a private cybersecurity firm that was hired by the Democratic National Committee after it was reported that the files published by WikiLeaks had been hacked by the Russians. So the Democratic National Committee went out and hired CrowdStrike to come in and do an investigation. And it was on the basis of that investigation that the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign proceeded to claim that the Russians had hacked the emails that were published by WikiLeaks.
So they hired some folks to say something, right? I mean, this isn't an objective observer we're talking about here, CrowdStrike.
Well, look, I've learned one thing after 50 years of trying cases, and that is you can hire an expert to say anything you want. And if you step back and think about it, if you put this into context, what happened after CrowdStrike had done its investigation and Hillary and the DNC were claiming that it was a Russian hack, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security asked to do their own direct access examination of the DNC's computer server. Excuse me. And the response that they got from the DNC was, well, no, we're not letting you come in. We've hired CrowdStrike. They've done an analysis, and so you should accept what CrowdStrike says. And if you take it out of the cyber context, say I'm called to a homicide scene, as I have been too many times in my life, and I prepare to go in to view the scene. I want to take a look at the body. I want to look at the blood spray. I want to look for shell casings or a murder weapon, dust for prints, so on and so on. And the people who called me to report the crime say, oh, you can't go in there. And the answer is, why not? And they'll say, well, we hired a private investigator. He's already done all of that. Just rely on what he has to say. No honest investigator who is seriously concerned with solving the crime would ever agree to that kind of absurd arrangement. And yet that's exactly what James Comey and his cohort at the FBI agreed to. They never did a direct access examination of the DNC computer. All of this has been based on the CrowdStrike analysis.
Wow.
Well, now there's another player in this, VIPS. Talk about them.
Okay, VIPS are the Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity.
Good title.
Isn't it a great name? They're a group of former National Security Agency, CIA, FBI, and military intelligence officers and electronics experts. They have people from IBM and so forth. And in the past, I'll call them VIPs just to save time. VIPs has taken some fairly controversial positions. One was they challenged the CIA's intelligence assessment that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Turns out they were right and the CIA was wrong. Mm-hmm. They challenged the use of enhanced interrogation techniques on terrorists. So they're hardly a Republican entity, or no one could claim that they're carrying water for conservative causes. And VIPS examined the WikiLeaks files, and they came up with a report to the president back in 2017 where they said, what we have found in looking at the WikiLeaks files, excuse me, is that the files could not have been obtained by means of a hack over the internet. The data transfer rate is much too fast, according to the metadata that's recorded with the WikiLeaks files. The data transfer rate is much too fast to have been done over the internet. And in fact, it's our conclusion that they were obtained by means of a thumb drive or other portable storage device being plugged directly into the DNC computer. So it was an inside job, according to VIPS. And they didn't stop there. Then they went on to say this Romanian hacker who came out of nowhere to claim that he had hacked the DNC computer and he had these files. They said, well, we examined that material and it appears that someone ran that material through a cut and paste program to put fake Russian fingerprints all over these files. And then they came up with a big enchilada, which was the question I had right from the very beginning, which is, if this was a hack over the internet, then the NSA, the National Security Agency, which gathers up and stores every electron that moves in cyberspace, would have records of the hack. And in fact, nothing has been produced from the NSA. So that's what VIPS came up with in 2017. And James Comey, the former director of the FBI, testified before the House and the Senate that the best practices in doing a cybersecurity investigation would require direct access to the subject computer so that the FBI could run its own examination, forensic examination of the computer, and that wasn't done. And then that raises the question of, well, why or how could that be? Because, as I say in the article, look at the stakes we're dealing with. The Russian hacking claim, number one, exacerbated tensions between two nuclear powers, the United States and the Russian Federation, and it smeared a presidential candidate and a president-elect and a president as colluding with the Russians. The stakes couldn't have been any higher, and it would seem to me that the FBI would want to turn heaven and earth and use every best practice to find out exactly what happened with the DNC computer. But they didn't do that. Instead, they relied on CrowdStrike. So that's phase one. And then later, I can tell you all about Robert Mueller and his team of Hillary Clinton sycophants, who also failed to do a forensic direct access analysis of the DNC computer and didn't even query, as far as we know, the NSA to find out if they had a record of any hacked files. So that's what the article is all about.
Well, that's where I was going next was, of course, Comey and Mueller. What does this do to their claims of Russian hacking? Doesn't this completely just blow that away? And if it blows that away, what about what's going on right now with the Ukraine? I mean, is there any credibility in any of this?
Well, let's go back and take a look at Comey, just for openers. If you recall, Comey held a press conference in which he exonerated Hillary Clinton of any criminal liability for having stored, transmitted, and received classified information on her private email server. And Comey said no reasonable prosecutor would ever prosecute Hillary Clinton under that scenario because she had no intent to violate the law. Well, the fact of the matter is, number one, under the statute involving the use or the storage of classified information, you don't need intent. Number two, it's a negligence standard. Same as if you get drunk and you drive your car and run somebody over. You don't have to intend to run somebody over. The fact that you were drunk behind the wheel is enough for criminal liability. The same thing under the Espionage Act. And number two, if you look at the fact that Hillary Clinton went to a lot of trouble to have her own private email server so she could transact her business off the record as far as the government was concerned, she had plenty of intent. So Comey's whole press conference and his whole defense of Hillary Clinton was, to put it mildly, disgraceful. So that's the man who then goes before Congress and says, yeah, CrowdStrike, they're great with us, and we'll just rely on what they did.
Well, we're gonna stop you right there and take a break, and I know that Rick's gonna pick this up on the other side because we've only got half the story so far. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. Now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. We've been talking with our guest about the CrowdStrike and the Impeachment Frenzy. Our guest is George Parry. I'm Sharron Engel. My co-host is Rick Trader, and we'll all be right back after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
And once again, we want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Engel. Yes, that's Sharron Engel. And we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We want to give a shout out to folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, Nowlin, Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., as well as seen on the AON television network in Northern California, places like San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose, Wine Country, Silicon Valley. You get it, Pelosi Country. Our guest this segment is George Parry. George is a contributor for the American Spectator, the Federalist, as well as the Washington Inquirer. He's also in private legal practice. George, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Okay.
Hey, George, I want to thank you for writing this article. I learned so much from it. I always learn so much from my guests. I wasn't sure. I've heard the term CrowdStrike. I wasn't sure who they were. But, George, I may not be the brightest bulb on the tree, but I'm not the dumbest. But I follow the news. I do this program 5 days a week. I follow the news. I talk to interesting people like you. But I never, ever heard of anything about this. How Comey and Mueller just took the story of CrowdStrike. I never heard anything other than it was a hack. It was a hack. It was a hack. I heard nothing about an inside job, somebody on the inside downloading. Why is that, George Parry? Why are we just hearing about this now?
Well, it doesn't fit the narrative. I think that's the standard answer. The narrative all along has been the Russians did it, and Trump benefited from it. And the narrative began not only with CrowdStrike, but as I say in the article, during the Democrat National Convention, Jennifer Palmieri, the PR chief for the Hillary Clinton campaign, went around through the convention, excuse me, and spread that story because the leaked files showed that the Clinton campaign had colluded with the Democrat National committee to rig the nomination process in Hillary's favor and against Bernie Sanders. And so Jennifer Palmieri's job was to put a happy face on this whole thing. And as she said in her own words in the Washington Post, she worked very hard at the convention to make clear to everyone that the Russians had hacked the files and that they had done it to hurt Hillary and benefit Trump. And that's how this whole thing gets started, between CrowdStrike and the Hillary Clinton campaign spreading the word. And that, of course, has been accepted as gospel throughout the mainstream media. And I might point out, by the way, this is kind of interesting, the VIPs people that I was talking about, the experts, they not only did a memorandum to the president back in 2017, they did an article for The Nation magazine, The Nation of all publications, and The Nation actually ran it. And then The Nation just got an avalanche of angry reaction from its readers, and they began to doubt the conclusion reached by the VIPs people. And so now within the mainstream media, if you are fortunate enough at all to have heard of VIPs, you will be told authoritatively, oh, their study has been discredited. And in fact, it is not. It's still a good study. And they did a second study, as I pointed out, in anticipation of the Mueller report, where they reiterated their findings and came up with additional forensic evidence showing that this had been the result of someone putting a thumb drive directly into the Democrat National Committee computer.
George, as my mother used to say to me all the time, those who have nothing to hide, hide nothing.
Yeah.
I would think that if the DNC's computer was hacked, or not hacked, but somebody on the inside downloaded this information, gave it to WikiLeaks, they would want to find out who that person was for a myriad of reasons. To get this person out of their criminal prosecution or what, theft, whatever. But it makes me believe there has to be something else that wasn't released, that giving these hard drives over to the FBI and the Justice Department would have been found. You know, George, you're wow, look at your resume. You are a prosecutor. In your days as a prosecutor, and even now as a defense attorney, if you got that kind of response from somebody who's had their house robbed, that they didn't want you to come in and do fingerprints, they didn't want you to do an investigation, wouldn't you want to know what's in that house that these people don't want you to find?
Yeah, well, unlike the feckless James Comey, if somebody ever tried that stunt with me back when I was in law enforcement, I just would have gotten a search warrant or a forthwith grand jury subpoena. I would have gone in. I would have said, you know, fellas, your refusal to let me in to see your computer is very interesting, but step aside. We're coming to take it away now, and we'll run our own tests. It wouldn't have been hard. And if Comey really wanted to investigate this thing, that's what he or any other competent investigator would have done. But as I said, Jim Comey is a guy who has been falling all over himself to help Hillary Clinton. And apparently there was stuff involved in this story, which if the truth came out, it would not have helped Hillary. Now, whether or not the people at the Democrat National Committee knew how this had happened really is almost beside the point. The fact of the matter is, I believe they knew for a fact that there had not been a hack and that they wanted to keep that a secret. They wanted to continue with a story that started with CrowdStrike and Jennifer Palmieri, Clinton's PR chief, that this was a Russian hack because that served their purposes. And so they went right along with the whole thing. It's a scam, is what we call it in the law. And when President Trump mentioned CrowdStrike in his conversation with the Ukrainian president, it seems to me, based on the reaction of the Democrats over the last week or so, a shockwave went through the Democrats when they heard the word CrowdStrike, because they know something very, very bad is coming their way. That's an indication to me, at least, that Attorney General Barr and his designee, John Durham, the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut, are hot on the trail, and that they are going to get into the whole CrowdStrike thing. And if they blow the lid off that, they're going to blow the lid off everything.
George, there's an interesting line in your article here. Is it possible that the NSA has not yet been asked to produce the collected packets of DNC email data claimed to have been hacked by the Russians?
Yeah.
Again, this is a great question to ask. What's your speculation?
I doubt that the FBI under Comey or the Mueller outfit queried the NSA, and I would expect that Attorney General Barr and Durham have queried the NSA, and if they haven't, then all they have to do is call me and I'll tell them how to do it. All you have to do is pick up the phone. But to me, that's really the key to the whole thing. As I said before, the NSA just sucks up everything in cyberspace, as well as everything in the broadcast media and on radio frequencies everywhere. Any form of communication, they got a record of it. So, and the VIPS people, many of whom worked for the NSA is in the technical aspects of things, they said the same thing. They said, look, if this happened as a hack, the NSA's got a record of it. All you have to do is go to the NSA. They can hit a couple of buttons and boom, there's the proof. And if nobody's asked for it, you got to ask why.
And everybody wants to know why Comey was fired. Everybody wants to know why Comey was fired.
Listen, a lot of my very close friends are retired FBI agents. And if it was up to them, he would have been shot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't understand why Comey was even kept on. The guy, and don't get me started down that road because you don't have enough hours in the day. But that interview.
You know what, George? We'll make those hours. If you want to come back on, we'll make that.
I'll come back anytime.
We'll make that time for you. George Parry, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on Conservative Commandos radio show. George, please tell our audience how they could follow your work and read your articles.
Well, I have a blog. It's called, for you Animal House fans, knowledgeisgood.net. All one word, knowledgeisgood.net. That's my blog. It's free. A lot of people seem to like it, and I hope your viewers sign up for it because I think they might get a kick out of it.
Sign me up, George. And knowledge would have been good in this. And talking about knowledge, it just, of all the time and all the words that have been spoken about Russia, that the fact that there was no Russian hack, that it was an inside job, I can't believe that has been so hidden. But George Parry, again, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Engel. On the other side, we're going to have Robert Romano. He's the Vice President of Public Policy at Americans for Limited Government, join us. He's written an interesting article. It was Ukraine that reopened that the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018 and sought the U.S. mutual aid to do it. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest right after this break.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Once again, we want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Angle. And the hallmark of our show is shows our great guests. And if you'd like to recommend somebody for us to have a guest on the show, or maybe yourself would like to be a guest, it's easy. Just email me, Rick at conservativecommandosradioshow.com. I know it's long, but it's easy. It's just Rick at conservativecommandosradioshow.com. And with that, Sharon, we have another great guest with us. He's a returning guest. And as you do with all our guests, please make him feel welcome.
Thank you, Rick. It is my pleasure to introduce Robert Romano, a longtime friend of this show, who is the Vice President of Public Policy at Americans for Limited Government. He grew up in suburban Long Island Township, Rocky Point, where he graduated from high school. He studied and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Stony Brook University with the class of 2008. And in his free time, he composes music on the piano, paints oil on canvas, and writes fiction. And today we're going to talk about the Ukraine. Robert, there's an interesting article that you wrote. It was Ukraine that reopened the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018 and sought U.S. mutual legal assistance to look at it, not the other way around. So welcome to our show, and talk to us about the Ukraine, will you please?
Absolutely. So if you go to John Solomon's reporting from The Hill, back on April 1st, prior to Volodymyr Zelensky winning the election in Ukraine by a total landslide, he almost got 75% of the vote over Petro Poroshenko, the U.S.-backed candidate. In Solomon quotes both the at the time current prosecutor general Yuri Lutsenko and his predecessor Viktor Shokin, both saying that they were looking at Joe Biden, they were looking at Burisma Holdings, and it was according to Lutsenko's office, the currently serving prosecutor general at the time, that they had reopened this investigation in 2018, long before Zelensky was elected, and certainly long before July of 2019, when Trump and Zelensky had the phone call. And I'll read you a small portion of the interview there. Per Solomon, quote, the top prosecutor in the prosecutor general's office, Kala Donetsky, the lead anti-corruption prosecutor in Lutsenko's office, confirmed to me in an interview that part of the Burisma investigation was reopened in 2018 after Joe Biden made his remarks. Colin Donetsky said, quote, "We were able to start this case again, but we don't see any result from this case 1 year after reopening because of some external influence." This is critical. Everyone who's going to look at the transcript of President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine on July 25th, 2019, where Trump and Zelensky are going back and forth about looking into the origins of the Russiagate hoax that falsely accused President Trump of being a Russian agent. It wasn't true. It was debunked by none other than special counsel Robert Mueller. They have to consider this piece from John Solomon on April 1st, where not only did this investigation begin back in 2018, following Joe Biden's remarks to the Council on Foreign Relations that he was conditioning $1.2 billion of loan guarantees if the prosecutor general Shokin was not fired. It also quotes Lutsenko saying that he would like the assistance of Attorney General William Barr. We have a 1998 treaty with Ukraine for mutual legal assistance. In this article, now I don't know if Poroshenko was requesting mutual legal assistance, but if you read the article on April 1st, it clearly says that Lutsenko was requesting Attorney General Barr look into this matter. He wanted to get the information in front of him. And eventually you have this phone call. After the election, Trump's on the phone with Zelensky, and this corruption issue comes up. And Trump says, you know what, I heard about Joe Biden. He had one of your prosecutors fired. And Zelensky says, I am aware of this information. And he promises that the investigation is going forward. And that and then he even requests mutual legal assistance. I can pull up that quote for you as well, since it's actually critical to whether or not we're going to impeach the president of the United States. He says, quote, I would kindly ask you if you have any additional information that you can provide to us. It would be very helpful for the investigation to make sure that we administer justice in our country. Zelensky also tells Trump that the investigation into Burisma Holdings is essential to his administration. Quote, the issue of the investigation of the case is actually the issue of making sure to restore the honesty. So we will take care of that and work on the investigation of the case. This is a game, set, match on any impeachment. There was no quid pro quo. Ukraine initiated this investigation in 2018. Trump heard about it in the reporting. The State Department official, Volker, he heard about it, I suppose, through the Solomon reporting. But that's not where it comes from. It's Ukraine that's initiating this. And they heard Joe Biden say, you fired our special prosecutor. What the heck is going on here? We better reopen the Burisma file. And that's what they're doing. They want mutual legal assistance. What are these treaties for? We're supposed to be promoting freedom and democracy around the world, and this is how we treat our allies?
Wow, you just gave us a mouthful there, Robert Romano. That is wonderful reporting. Sleepy Joe did it to himself, didn't he? Opened his big mouth and he really stuck his foot in it, because they wouldn't have even been looking had he not bragged about this on television. We have that clip on our show. We've run it a few times, and he's actually bragging, isn't he, that he's such a tough guy, and that's what got him in trouble, isn't it, Robert?
Absolutely. Not only was he bragging in front of the Council on Foreign Relations in 2018 about getting the prosecutor general fired, if you look at his book, he also brags about getting the former president, Viktor Yanukovych, overthrown while the coup was going on. And there was the shooting going on in the capital of Kiev. People were getting gunned down, police officers and activists. All this to get a European Union-Ukraine trade deal. I guess this was how Obama got trade deals ratified. Trump actually goes to talk to people. In the meantime, there was the shooting going on in Kiev, and they pushed Yanukovych out of power within 2 days. Of that. They have the shootings are happening on February 20, 2014. On February 21, Biden says he's on the phone with Yanukovych. You've got to go. It's time to go. And then the day after that, Yanukovych is impeached. They had an investigation into something that happened on the streets of Kiev. In 2 days, they had an impeachment, and then he's fleeing the capital. I guess he goes to Russia. That's where you go if you're considered a Russian stooge. But leaving that aside, Biden is bragging about overthrowing the sitting president of Ukraine, and he's bragging about the prosecutor general. We know for a fact that Obama put Biden in charge of Ukraine policy in 2014, and I guess to enrich himself. I don't know. A few months later, his son is working on Burisma Holdings on the board of directors, and it's very, very big natural gas firm over there in Ukraine. It stinks to high heaven.
Well, I think I would be afraid if I were Joe Biden to visit the Ukraine again. It sounds like they should have a warrant out for his arrest. He's certainly a bad actor as far as they're concerned, I would think, and that's why they initiated this investigation, isn't it?
Well, it certainly looks, I think that specific to the prosecutor general being fired, it's very clear from Solomon's reporting. This is not source A and source B from the Christopher Steele dossier. This was the then current prosecutor general of Ukraine. That's the equivalent of our attorney general and his predecessor, both saying that this interaction with Biden conditioning the loan guarantees, $1.2 billion on the firing of Shokin, caught their attention, and they were looking into it. It's an unbelievable outcome if this all goes down, and nobody wants to look at Joe Biden. Are they kidding?
Well, obviously the Ukraine wants to look at him. That's why they initiated the. It sounds like they initiated the conversation with Trump. In fact, just making sure that they had his cooperation when they come after Biden. That's the way it sounds to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, these are public statements from the prosecutor general's office, from the Lushenko, and from his predecessor Shokin. And so I think that this needs to be a part of whatever proceedings are going to occur in the House of Representatives. But if I'm Nancy Pelosi, I'm thinking this is stupid. Why am I going to sacrifice the House majority on something that's easily proven by a timeline? I mean, there can't be a quid pro quo to start an investigation into Joe Biden in 2019 if the investigation's already been ongoing for 17 months.
And was initiated by the Ukraine, not by the U.S. Interesting, just the whole thing. And these are not whistleblowers. These are not third-party hearsayers, are they, Robert?
No, these are the people who would be in charge of law enforcement in Ukraine and with exercising their rights under the U.S.-Ukraine Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. They went through channels. Zelensky, in this phone call, as the head of state, is requesting Trump to assist. If you have any information, please provide it to us on this corruption stuff. And so I think that Trump's well within his rights. He had more than an ample basis to say, you know what, Barr, you need to look into this Ukraine issue. And also to do with the Russiagate allegations, we're all aware of the Politico reporting in January of 2017 from David Stern and Kenneth Vogel that there was also a Ukrainian effort to influence the outcome of the 2016 election on behalf of Hillary Clinton. And then there were all these allegations that President Trump was a Russian agent that were false. Well, gee, I wonder how that happened. Oh, I know. Ukraine is embroiled in a proxy war with Russia, and maybe they were upset at President Trump, or they believed what the allies were saying, that Trump's some sort of Russian stooge. It wasn't true. And Trump is actually the one who's providing military assistance to Ukraine. Obama rejected military assistance to Ukraine. Again, this whole thing stinks to high heaven. I think Trump, as president, he's allowed to carry out his foreign policy. And if there was U.S. corruption being fueled, or corruption in Ukraine being fueled by the United States, even if it was the vice president, and then Ukraine's asking for our help, the Justice Department has an obligation to look into it, and if it's not true, to provide him with that information. But the idea that you shouldn't be investigating this, which, by the way, shouldn't be public information. It wasn't Trump who said, oh, I'm investigating Joe Biden. It wasn't Barr who said that. And the Ukrainians, well, they say they're doing that, but they're requesting assistance at the time. But those are things that are supposed to happen under the treaty.
Wow.
Well, and I have to applaud the president of the Ukraine. He went through channels. He went to the right person. He went to Trump. He didn't go directly to Barr, like like Biden went directly and said, I want your attorney general. He didn't say that to Trump, I want your attorney general. Wow. Robert Romano is our guest here on Conservative Commandos Radio. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. We can also be seen on AUN TV network in Northern California and places like San Francisco, San Rafael, Sacramento, Marin, North Bay, San Jose. In short, Pelosi country. Rick Trader is my co-host. I'm Sharron Engel, and we'll be right back with our guest, Robert Romano, discussing the Ukraine that reopened the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018 and sought U.S. mutual legal assistance to look at it, not the other way around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And once again, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And once again, if you'd like to recommend a guest, it's easy to do. Hallmark of our show is terrific guest. Send an email to me. I read all my emails, even the ones that end up in the spam box. It's Rick at ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com. Rick at ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com. I know it's long, but it's easy. It's just Rick at ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com. Also, you can check out our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. Be able to contact us through it. And also, while you're there, check out our TV show and our radio show. Well, Sharron, technologically, we had a little breakdown. We've lost our guest, Robert Romano, who is the public policy, who's the vice president of public policy at Americans for Limited Government. But it was a very interesting article that he wrote and was talking to us about. And you can check that out at gotliberty.org. You'll be able to find Robert's article there. It was the Ukraine that opened the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018. They sought U.S. mutual legal aid assistance. Very interesting, Sharron. We haven't heard much about that. And apparently, as Robert told us, there is a treaty. There is a treaty between the United States and the Ukraine that says if one asks for help and legal aid, here in Robert's article it says the U.S. and Ukraine have a mutual legal assistance treaty signed in 1998. Well, let's do the math. Well, that was during the Clinton administration. And it is legitimate and appropriate, not to mention perfectly legal, for the sitting Ukrainian prosecutor general to seek U.S. assistance on legal matters of joint concern. Now, there it is, Sharron. There is this treaty, and if, let's just say, Trump ignored this treaty, I'm sure the media would be all over him for ignoring a treaty. It's his job, it's responsibility to respond to the Ukrainians, to help them with this matter.
It is. And I've heard that before. Now, that's been reported on places that we think are fairly reliable, Fox News for one. But the thing that hasn't been reported is that Biden himself was the reason that this whole case was reopened, and not by us. We're not the ones that we're looking at it. We're used to Sleepy Joe bragging about whatever. And in fact, we just kind of let that slip by, all of us, until the president of the Ukraine said, wait a sec, this guy's bragging about something we think really happened.
Right.
We want to investigate it. And they start the investigation, realize that they need more information from our side. And a year later, it really is a year from January of 2018 to October of 2019 is more than a year. They have a conversation on the phone with the president, and they're finally ready now to ask for our help on our side of this to see what we know about this Joe Biden and his son. So they've been investigating for a long time. They've been doing their due diligence. That's what it says to me. They've done their due diligence on their side of the Atlantic, and now they want to know, what do you know about this Biden brag? And it looks like, to anybody else, this would be bad news for Joe Biden.
Oh,
I would think.
So, Robert used the phrase, game, set, match. I think this should also be game, set, match on Joe Biden. I'd like to know why he can't be prosecuted. All right? We're using his influence to get something out of the Ukraine that he wanted that would benefit the company that his son works for. And, Sharron, this whole idea, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, okay, his record of being a drug user to the point where it got him thrown out of the U.S. Navy. I mean, it must have been really bad. Okay, and you figure the son of Joe Biden, who is a congressman, who was a senator, who is a vice president, and his son gets booted out of the Navy? I mean, this must have really been bad. And I would like to know what incidences triggered the Navy to kick him out other than his just drug use. There's a lot of people in the service that have drug use problems. But for them to kick out the son of a former congressman, a former senator, a former vice president, a former presidential candidate. This had to be bad stuff. So Hunter Biden gets this job with Burisma at $175,000 a month. A month. Excuse me, what special talent, skill, or education does Joe Biden have for an energy company, Burisma, to pay him $175,000 a month? It makes no sense. So when Robert says game, set, match, and you talk about Biden being so brazen, oh man, this guy's got breasts, you know what? And you have to figure why. Because he thinks he can spout off and say whatever he wants to, and there's not going to be any ramifications. That's the only thing I can think of, Sharron, that he thinks he's above the law, and these chickens would never come home to roost on him. Maybe they are.
Well, in this article that Robert Romano writes, it says in April. See, this started in January of 2018. So in April of 2019, before their election, Lysenko says he would like to talk to Attorney General William Barr about Biden. He says that to a reporter. I think he says it to the reporter, hoping that maybe the reporter can get the message on up through the channels and get something done. But he waits and he waits, and nothing happens. Nothing happens until July 25th. So 3 months later, 4 months later, what's that? And he finally has a phone call with Mr. Trump himself. And President Trump says this, and this almost sounds naive when you see where Lysenko is coming from. He's been pounding this thing for over a year, and now he's finally got the president's ear. And this is what the president says. There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the attorney general would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, we don't know anything. He's just admitting that this must have been a terribly frustrating conversation for the Ukrainian president. Here he finally gets the top man on the telephone, and the top man says, we don't know anything. I hope that Attorney General Barr can help you with it, but we don't know anything. We just heard a lot of rumors and talk. So, it's from my point of view, now that you put that conversation in context, it's ludicrous. It's funny, and it's frustrating to the guys in the Ukraine. They're thinking, wow, what are we, chopped liver over here? We're investigating one of your guys, and you won't even, and you're saying, oh, well, it sounds like a rumor and it could be horrible. Hello, we're just trying to get you to pay attention. Well, they are paying attention now, but in a wrong way. They're using it instead of let's get to the bottom of this and help Ukraine sort out their corruption problems. Let's get to the bottom of it and find out why a top elected official in our country is a gangster.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. That's the way the mob operates, by saying you do it our way or else. Why he's been acting like a gangster, and nothing's been happening. They must think, that everybody in the United States Justice Department is out to lunch. They just are not looking at any of this.
Maybe they
seriously.
are. Sharron,
well,
maybe
like
they are. We spoke with George Parry, how much the Justice Department and the FBI missed that this organization, VIP, found. I think there's another question that has to be asked. All you're hearing now is about Burisma and Biden and impeach and whatever. And you know what this does, Sharron? This keeps it I believe all this discussion about it, it's not very good for Joe Biden. You know, I really do think that this is going to be detrimental to his campaign. So who benefits from this? You know, does Elizabeth Warren benefit from it? Well, Bernie Sanders, you know, Bernie has health issues. I thought he's done for. So who benefits? Elizabeth Warren? Or what about the Hillary Clinton? You know, here we go again. Can we connect the dots? And this takes us back to the Clinton crime family once again. I don't know.
Well,
who
it
else
also
benefits?
takes us back. It also takes us back to our good friend Robert Romano, who gave us that prediction over a year ago now. He said, I think you'll see Michelle Obama come out of this.
Dr.
I don't know how,
Dr. Gerard
yeah,
Romano.
Dr. Gerard Romano. How does Michelle Obama come out of this with this Biden taint now? I mean, this has really fouled the nest for a lot of
Sharron,
people, hasn't it?
Okay, when you look at how this is and could possibly hurt Joe Biden, when you look at Bernie Sanders basically out of the race because of his medical condition, when you look at Elizabeth Warren and Wall Street has said, you know, Wall Street has said either we'll support Trump or we'll sit out this campaign. Is if Elizabeth Warren is the nominee, who's left? Pete Buttigieg? I don't know. Kamala Harris? I don't know. So could we possibly see a Michelle Obama riding in to save the party? Time will tell. Sharron, we got to go to a break and actually wrap up the show after this. But you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Sharron and I will be back with more right after this break.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Well, Sharron, that just about wraps it up once again for today. I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. We had a great show today and a lot of great guests.
Yes, we did. And I want to thank them so much because, as you said, we learn a lot here on our show from our guests. Stuff that just doesn't get talked about anyplace else that I know about.
Nope.
Our first guest, Ryan Young, who is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, came on and talked to us about minimum wage. We discuss that off and on here at Conservative Commandos radio show regularly because it is an issue that affects our economy in a big way.
Sure does.
And our second guest, George Parry, what a revelation he was. CrowdStrike and the Impeachment Frenzy. I would have liked to have him stay over and discuss with our third guest, Robert Romano, who actually came on and talked to us about the Ukraine that reopened the Burisma-Biden probe in 2018. So it's all this stuff about the Justice Department can't seem to get their job done. That's like Keystone Cops over there. And I would have liked to have the two of them together discussing the Russiagate incident and the Ukraine. They seem to be hand in hand with incompetence there in our Justice Department.
All right. And Sharron, how can people follow you when you're not here with me on Conservative Commandos?
Well, they can go to SharronAngle.com, SharronAngle.com.
All right. But for right now, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.